So this is what students would see when you sign in with your Cougar Web information again, and that's how you get signed into the Degree Audit UAchieve tool. You will see your declared program most likely. So the abbreviation, the title itself, and the catalog year. And we would want to go about running the declared program, but I do want to show students something as well. You can also run a degree audit for any other certificate or degree that we offer. So if you're in a situation where you want to see, hey, I wonder how my completed credits might factor into an Associate of Arts or possibly a criminal justice related degree or something like that, that is completely possible, and you can run an audit off of a degree, a different program other than your declared program. But for now, we're going to run a declared program degree audit. It did run one a little bit earlier, but I'm going to wait for the new one to load. So that's going to be 1107. So to access this degree audit, we want to make sure to follow this link here that says View Audit. And students should be able to see this very same thing. So first, what it provides is a good visual aid in the graphs and charts for basically where your progress is now for completion and as well as your GPA. So the key here for complete, in progress, and unfulfilled, and those colors are going to be the key that guides you through the rest of the degree audit as well. This just gives you a visualization, but more of the nitty-gritty stuff that's more important is going to be down here. It tells you how many credits you've earned so far. It tells you what you need in specific sections. It tells you how many general education credits you've completed. And notice here where you see the red, that's where students know, hey, I still need to fulfill this. This part of my degree hasn't been completed yet. And it can give you that idea of what you should maybe be looking towards completing next. Still, I will always stress to students to keep a rapport with their academic advisors, and still, it's important to have that mentor type relationship and have someone to still consider for a well-advised second opinion when it comes to the academic decisions you make. So when you scroll to the top of your degree audit, there always is going to be your specific programs advisors there as well. If any of this kind of gets a little confusing and you might be confused or concerned about something you're seeing, you can always still reach out to advisors here. But this is still a really important tool in the registration process. Again, it gives you an idea of where you should be looking towards. It gives you an idea of maybe questions you could ask your advisor, as well as a little bit of ideas for things to get registered for. And ultimately, from the audit and eventually, hopefully, when you meet with your advisor, that brings us to finally getting registered for classes. So we most likely have done this before, but we do want to try and get a head start, especially for summer semester registration opening up a week from Monday. So that's going to be February 15th. So you probably have used the registration self-service before. When you go ahead and follow the link here on Cougar Web, you have 4 different options for searching for classes. You can register for the classes that might already be in your schedule builder or basically a shopping cart. You can drop courses here as well. And there is also a very, very, very helpful tutorial by Jessica Planick that she did here for any other help. And it's a very, very cohesive tutorial if you ever get confused and want to come back for more help on how to get registered. But when we do enter the self-service, it's pretty comprehensive. What you'll need to know specifically, and we don't have it here yet because registration hasn't opened, you'll want to make sure that you're specifying which semester you're wanting to get registered for and making sure that you don't accidentally press spring because it might show you some different information than what you're needing. But for instance, if in the case that we did have summer, I would press that, but just for now, I'm going to go ahead and follow it to spring. For my example, I chose before English 1100. It's a pretty common course that most everybody will take. You have the option of specifically putting in the synonym if you know exactly what section you want, but it's possible that you most likely don't know that 5-digit number or the section number, but those you do have the option of still searching by those, as well as divvying down which specific days, times, and locations you're wanting for the courses, and you can search from there. So for me, I already added one to my course, my schedule builder, but I still do want to go in here and show you the available sections. It's going to give you first a summary of what the course is. So make sure that you're also pressing view available sections, because this isn't the only place where you can see where the classes are. So another important thing I was wanting to mention too with registration for following semesters, as we know now, due to the pandemic, 90% of our courses are going to be offered online. What we want students to pay attention to when it comes to registering for classes, when you see classes that say TBD and their lectures, Columbus campus, and they don't have a specific location, so say Davidson Hall or Nestor Hall or specific room number, that kind of gives you the idea that it will be something called an asynchronous online course, meaning it doesn't have specific lectures or meeting times, but you will have to still log online to complete the coursework. And that's different from the live online option, like we see down here. There's no TBD, there's Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's a course time. That's how you know that synchronously, and it's called a synchronous online class, everybody will get online at once for lectures 2 times or more a week in the traditional form, as we would do in a classroom, but obviously we're at home right now. From here, you can look through anything that really fits your schedule, and you have the option of adding anything you'd like to your schedule builder, which is kind of like a shopping cart. And once you go ahead and add that, it'll go ahead and place it in there. Now, that doesn't mean you're automatically registered for the course. It is important that you finalize everything that you do add, and you go to the sidebar here. So you want to press this little hamburger icon to maximize this menu here. And if you press under academics, the very first option is going to be add and drop classes. And that's how we would go about finishing everything. Now, I do have 2 1100s added here because I added one a little bit earlier, and this is the one I just added on. For students who are eligible, you can go ahead and get registered for the class. There will be an option here to register for the class. But in my case, I have already completed this class before, so I'm not able to register for it right now. For a better visual aid of exactly what that looks like, I do also recommend referring to Jessica Planick's video I mentioned before, just so you can see exactly what that looks like to get registered for the course. So that is the self-service for registration. And if you ever want to verify if you're registered for the course, you can always check here. Back on the student menu of Cougar Web, once you follow this link down here for my schedule, it takes you straight back to the page we were just on. So you can always verify if you're registered for classes through here, as well as your degree audit as well. That updates pretty instantly. So if you just make sure to run a new degree audit, you'll have to make sure to run a new one. The old one won't reflect that if you registered after the degree audit you already ran, but you could also check for registered classes under a degree audit as well. So that is just one thing to keep in mind for students when registering for classes, that you do have a pretty good aid, as well as the aid that academic advisors have when they're advising you on courses to take, to get a good idea of what you can take next. There will be some instances when it does come to registering for classes where there may be classes that are filled up, which is why we do want to try and make sure students are signing up really as soon after registration opens on the 15th as possible. But in the event that students may not be able to register for a class manually due to seats being filled, we don't have a specific wait list that students could add themselves to, but we do give students the option of being able to reach out to the specific instructor for permission to be added to the course. And if you're unsure about how to do that, I actually am going to go ahead and do an example here from the registration self-service again. I'm going to go back to my previously registered courses, and I want to just use my instructor as an example here. So let's say that M Writes class is filled. I want to get in here, but I cannot because it's filled up. What I would recommend, and what we would recommend students do, on the very home page of the website, or you can access this from any page of the website, but in the top right corner, there's a directory here where you can search for employees on the staff and faculty teams. And if I just search Wright by last name, we're going to see a few here, but M is Madeline and Mike, but Madeline's Justice, Safety, and Legal Studies, so we know Mike is English because we're taking the English 1100 course. If we follow this email here, this hyperlink, it'll take you to Mike Wright's specific employee directory page where you would be able to contact that specific instructor. So one thing to keep in mind, we do want students to make sure that they are accessing their student email to email instructors. Make sure that you know your 7-digit Cougar ID number and include that when you're asking through your student email. Another important thing too to remember is that it is up to instructor's discretion as to if you can be added to a class or not. So it is, though you do have the option of asking, it's up to their discretion, and instructors are not obligated to necessarily add students to classes after the seats have been filled up. Just keep that in mind, but it still is an option that you do have as a student. Now I want to see here, I think really that is really what I wanted to get to the bottom of. Yep, that was my very last thing. I just wanted to show students really how there's a lot of resources available on the website to get you started with registration. If you ever feel a little bit unsure. And I think just the academic advising directory and page in general is a very good place to get started. If you're like, it's time to register for classes, what do I do first? So I did just want to share that. That's all I'm going to do for registration, but I think I can go ahead and pass it on to Christina now for the financial aid side.
For sure. Thank you very much, Yana. All right.
You're welcome.
You can hear me okay, right?
Yep, I hear you.
Cool. Okay, so hi, everybody. I'll do my introduction as well. My name is Christina Hunter. I am a floating specialist in between our financial aid, Student Central kind of department and our college testing services. And today I'm just here to kind of break things down into a basic 3-step process for how to get financial aid for the summer semester specifically. Now this is going to be general financial aid kind of how-to, and there's going to be a couple tips kind of sprinkled in for the summer semester. But let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen really quickly here. Okay, let's try this one. All right, so are you guys seeing the federal student aid home screen right now?
I see it.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so the first thing that I will say from a financial aid perspective, step 1 is always going to be, if you would like to receive federal aid in any semester, we're going to need a FAFSA application from you. So first things first, what does FAFSA even mean? What does that stand for? So FAFSA is actually an acronym. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's exactly what you think it is. It's an application that pretty much any student can complete in order to request financial aid availability from the federal government. I will make a note there. There are some students who cannot fill out the FAFSA. If you feel like you may fit into that category, just give us a connection, either reach out to us over chat, give us a call, and we can kind of connect you to aid resources moving forward. But basically, for the summer semester, for our summer semester at Columbus State, we need your 2020-2021 FAFSA application. So for returning students, for students who may be transient and go to another home university or institution, this information could be different than your home or previous institution. What we want to make sure is that we have the appropriate information on file so that we can package an award for you. So for my new students, for students who are coming to Columbus State for the first time in summer, what we're going to need you to do is head to this website right up top here, studentaid.gov, shown right up top. What you're going to want to do is basically just hit this main, well, you're going to be presented with this login button. If you're brand new, you're going to want to create an account right down here. If you click in that info, It'll prompt you right here to create an account, or what they call an FSA ID. It's basically a username so that you can get access into creating that application. So you can get started right down here, and that will take you through the entire process of submitting your information and getting that opened. Or if you're a returning student, you can log in with previous information right down here. The one thing that I will say, and the thing that I'll highlight right here, you do need a social to create an account. So that's part of the reason why we can't have students create more than one FSA ID. It's because it's attached to your social and you've only got one of those. So if you have already created an FSA ID, you are going to need to reuse that information. Past that though, for our returning students, I just want to make sure that you do have the 2021 application completed, and that you do also make sure Columbus State's information is on your application. If you do go for the federal student, or for the federal school code, excuse me, that would be 006867. You don't need to memorize that though. As long as you are able to search for a school, you can take a look for Columbus State Community College. I'll just make another note too. An issue that I have run into before is just be sure that it's a community college for us and not Columbus State University, because they are down in Georgia and we wouldn't be able to use your information if it got sent over there. So that's the basics there. Typically, we allow from the time of submission of that FAFSA to the time that we receive the information, we allow about 3 to 5 business days, typically a little bit longer if we're in higher processing times. So again, if you are planning on getting financial aid or requesting financial aid for the summer, I try to get that information in as soon as you possibly can. So the second basic step for financial aid. So what do you do after we get the FAFSA application? So the second major step is that sometimes we'll assign students what we call verification paperwork. So first things first, I kind of wanted to explain a little bit about what this is, because I don't know that we ever really get a good opportunity to explain why we do what we do here. So since the FAFSA application is completely open to whatever information you'd like to input, you are not required necessarily to fill in anything quote unquote accurately. That sounds a little fishy, but the reason I say that is because we will request verification paperwork for what we need to be sure of, basically, if that makes sense. So since that application is completely self-report, Columbus State has to have the paperwork on file saying that what you put in that application is actually correct. It saves our butt, basically, it saves your butt. It keeps your eligibility in place for federal aid, and you do want to keep that in place if you want to continue to receive federal aid. So verification paperwork is very important for us to have and for you to complete. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to pop over here to our home page right here. I'll say that after we receive a student's FAFSA application, and if we do assign verification paperwork, a student will be able to know about that with an email notification. That's one of the main ways that we notify students when that happens. So I just wanted to underline the same thing that Yana did. You can access your email from the main page right up top here. I'll take you to this main email Office 365 option. Just go ahead and click in there and get logged in with your username and password and take a look to see if we have any verification paperwork that we need you to complete rather. The other main piece that I would like to say about verification paperwork is, of course, well, how do you give it to us, right? How do you turn it in? So the main way that we would like students to turn in verification paperwork is through financial aid self-service. So I kind of wanted to be sure that I could show exactly how you can get everywhere from the main page, just to kind of keep things as simple as possible. So up top here, you do always have a link to CougarWeb. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I will actually get logged in here. Perfect. Okay, you'll accept and continue. And then what you're going to want to do, if you do have verification paperwork, you're going to want to click on financial aid self-service right here. This link under the third menu that says complete financial aid steps. That's going to be where you're going to want to go. So because this is my info, I do actually need to pull up a different tab. Okay. So this is basically, should be, perfect. This should be basically what a student will see when they pull up that main page. So if you do have missing documents, it'll show right up top here, hey, you have missing documents. Before we can complete that application, we need some additional documentation from you. If you are also on this screen as a student, there are other things that will let you know, hey, we need action from you, or hey, this is completely finished. You don't need to worry about this anymore, right? So the other thing I'll mention too before I kind of get into taking a look at the required documents, this resource list on the right-hand side of this screen is super, super useful. And as a specialist in financial aid, one of the things that I can underline the most, and one of the things that I will suggest to students the most, is to, once you get into places like CougarWeb and financial aid self-service, just give some of these links a click. Try clicking around in your resource lists, see what you can find, see what you can get access to. One of the things that I learned just recently, for example, is that you can get more info about accepting and changing your awards, and you can get a link to our award revision form, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, right over here, instead of having to search for it on the main page. So things like that can be really handy to learn, and you can basically use things like CougarWeb and Financial Aid Self-Service as more of a hub to get you where you need to go, if you kind of use them that way. But either way, so if we focus back in on required documentation, if I click either this link right here or right in here to complete required documents, it's going to pull up a list of the required documents that this student needs. Okay, so you can change the specific award year here as well if you're involved in more than one academic year at one time. Typically, that's not really required, specifically because we'll be within a given semester. If a student's doing paperwork for, say, summer and autumn, that may be more relevant to them. If we have, say, 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022, right in this drop-down menu. But for the summer semester here, this student, it looks like they need to complete their 2018 tax return request, right? We need their return to verify the information that they gave us, and it's showing as incomplete right here. So in order to actually get into the form, what you're going to want to do is click on this link right under here where it says the explanation option. Give that a click. And it's going to take you to an online form, okay? So what you're going to do here, most of the time, is go ahead and fill out your info. For this specific form, we would like the student to attach the signed 1040 and all of the schedules that were a part of their 2018 tax return. Give their spouse's information in return if that's necessary, sign, and then submit that form off. So basically that would be the general gist for any other form that you would need to complete for financial aid verification as well. Of course, the forms will change depending on the information that we need from you as a student. So yeah, after that point, after we get those submitted, again, we tend to allow typically about 3 to 5 business days again for those verification documents to process through. That does also very deeply depend on when we're processing. If we are in peak times in between semesters, we may be processing verification documentation a little bit slower than would be anticipated. So again, just to underline the idea of getting things in as soon as possible is always best for financial aid. Past that, so that's basically what I have to say for the second main step, is that verification paperwork, getting that in. So the third step, after you get verification paperwork in, you're going to need to accept or decline whatever award is offered to you, and you're going to want to make changes if they're needed. So let me go ahead and pull up. Let's pop back here real quick. Pull up another screen. Okay, so, oh, this is just what I pulled up. I'm sorry, give me just one moment here. All right. Okay, awesome. So this is going to be one of the main pages that I love showing to students and using to explain how tuition and fees interact with financial aid is what we call our account activity screen right up top here. I'll show you guys how to get to this screen in just a minute using the hamburger menu that I like that Yanni used just a moment ago. It's super simple to get there, but basically, if there was financial aid, if I hit expand all over here, we can scroll through the courses right there. But if there was financial aid that was active, it would show here. Now with this student's specific account, because we showed that they had required paperwork that they needed to complete, this is not going to actually apply, at least until they get that verification paperwork completed. There are other reasons, of course, for ineligibilities over here. You don't really have to be concerned about those specifically, just to say that the basics here are we're going to take the math of your charges, we're going to take the financial aid that we can out of that, and then we're going to leave you with a balance, right, remaining. In order to get into this screen from pretty much any self-service, you could get into this from financial aid self-service, the screen that I showed just a moment ago. You can click on this little hamburger icon, go ahead and hit into financial information. You're going to want student finance, and then account activity is the screen right down here. This student finance menu is also incredibly useful because you can see your account summary, your total account summary. You can make a payment if you do need to do that. You can take a look and see how much bookstore funding is available to you if you have excess financial aid for a given semester. This will give you a very succinct summary of what you can use in the bookstore. You can buy books. This is a link directly to the bookstore that will take you directly there to purchase whatever you need. And then additional information about tuition and fees, how we charge you, and why we would be charging you a specific way. What I will say about this screen as well, I'm kind of doing this a little bit backwards, but if we show in your charges that your tuition is higher than you expected, or if you see a surcharge that says something along the lines of an international or a non-resident surcharge, you may have, in the process of application to the school, been determined to be an out-of-state or an international student for tuition purposes. So if that is the case and you need to reapply for residency reclassification, I'll just make sure that you remember that the deadline to reapply is always going to be the first day of the given semester that you'd like to apply for. So basically, the first day that your classes meet, that's going to be the deadline of your reclassification application if it applies to you. Past that, though, let me see if I can get into, let's do student finance, let's do account summary over here. No, that's not it. Okay. Thought I was going to be able to get as far up here. Basically, what I can say, let me get you back to the account activity screen. What I can say is that typically when we have an award letter ready for a student, we will send an email out to them. We will say, we have an award that's ready for viewing. Go ahead and click into this link, and it will take you straight to the award. At that point, you can accept or decline any loans that are offered to you. Now, of course, for any grant funding that is available on your account, that will be automatically accepted, as since that funding is grant funding, it wouldn't need to be paid back, and there's not really any reason that you would need to decline the funding on your account. For loans, though, that's entirely your call. You can accept or decline as you need. Past that, we do have other forms of aid available as well. We do have more scholarships available as the semester grows closer. You can check those out at cscc.academicworks.com for any of those offerings that are available. But yeah, basically, after you make that change and either accept or decline what you need, typically we allow about 24 to 48 hours for any changes to reflect. It may be more automatic depending on what you need, or what you've done, rather, I suppose, if you've declined or accepted. But Past that, oh, right. The only other thing that I wanted to really mention was our award revision form. So what I'm going to do I'm actually going to do this pretty much the exact way that I do it when I get questions about it, specifically through chat, is we've got a really succinct forms page right here for financial aid. Go ahead and click right up there, right up top. And you can access the award revision form, oh goodness, I'm not scrolling, right under here, under this drop-down menu for 2021 award revision forms. And the more general one is going to be linked right under here at that first one. There are a couple of other Parent Plus forms that are linked under there as well. But if I click into here, so a student can use this form to make changes to the amounts of specific awards that they are using for a given semester. So for example, I'm not going to completely fill this out right now, but we've got a couple of different options here. If you wanted to change up the amount of federal loans that you are receiving, you'd want to check this first option right here. And this is an interactive form, which you'll see in a moment. Right? So then we'll ask you, do you want to cancel all of your loans or do you want to change the amounts? So I'll say, go ahead and change those amounts. In the last year, have you attended any other college? I'm going to go ahead and say no. And then we give you a chart right here that explains annual federal loan borrowing limits. Now, every student is subject to annual borrowing limits. For us, these are marked pretty succinctly right here. A lot of the times it really just depends on how many credits you have completed and then whether you are dependent or an independent student. Basically, it's just based on what kind of income info, right, you had to provide on the FAFSA, right? We give a little bit of a summary there. But then once you get through all of that, all of the info down here, you can change values right here. For this year, it would be autumn 20, spring 21, and summer 21. Once summer passes, of course, we will have an updated form for the next academic year. But after that point hits, you'd sign that and then go ahead and submit. You can also print a copy for your records if you'd like to do so. But again, you can kind of keep in mind with this, typically we allow 3 to 5 business days for processing for forms here. The award revision form is no different. Basically for financial aid, if you know you'd like to make a change, I'd go ahead and get it in as soon as you possibly can. But past that, I'll just underline, I suppose, one more time that financial aid really connects with students through student email. That is the main place that we give students notification that there is any documentation that they'll need to complete and if they need to make any changes to their award. So I'd just like to harp on it. Please do check your email. But past that, I think that's about all I need to say. So I suppose that I can turn this over to JP to chat more about getting students access to their online resources.
Thank you, Christina. Let me see if I can steal the screen from you. Okay, so I know we've talked a lot about how do you register for classes, how do you view your financial aid, but what if you still have questions? There's a lot of resources on the Columbus State website that are just right at your fingertips. So I just wanted to highlight a few of them. One, we have actually a new page, new for spring, that is Online Learning 101 that I wanted to show you. You can get to this page either by going to cscc.edu/online101, or you can search using the search bar at the top here. So online learning will give you a lot of great sort of tips and advice on taking online classes. A lot of our, as Yana had mentioned previously, a majority of our classes are online right now. So what are some tips and resources to use to make sure that you're successful in those online classes? So here are some quick videos on different online course expectations. If you continue to scroll down, here's some resources. If you need help using any of the technology that we have at Columbus State. So maybe you need help with your email or using Blackboard. Maybe you have a smartphone that you're trying to get your Columbus State student email set up on. IT is here to help you. So they have some success tips as well as how to sort of navigate their knowledge base. And then if we continue to scroll down, here are some study tips. And then at the very bottom, we have virtual college resources. So the virtual college resources page has a bunch of quick mini YouTube tutorials that will cover a lot of the things that we've already discussed today. It will show you how to use your online tools such as Manage My Account or financial aid self-service. There's a video on how to find your academic advisor, how to register for classes. We also have videos on what are your options when it comes to paying for college, about scholarships or payment plans, as well as classroom support, and then so on. So there's a lot of great resources here that you can click on and view in your own time. But let's say you still have questions even after that. If you visit our resources for students page, I'm going to give a shout out to our Student Central team, because if you have any questions, you can find us at Student Central. You'll notice that at the bottom right-hand side, there's this chat option. You'll actually see this chat option on a bunch of the Columbus State pages. So on academic advising pages, cashiers and student accounting, financial aid, you'll all see this chat option where you can reach out to a specialist or an advisor right online. So you no longer have to call and wait on hold, or you don't have to send an email and wait for a reply. You can have access to an advisor right there, sort of at your fingertips. But here, if you do have any questions outside of chat, you can always reach us by phone or by email. And then here are some other links to the financial aid page, which Christina showed, how to find their forms, registration, which is what Jana showed earlier, and then student forms, any forms that you may need to fill out in order to change your major, change your name, change your address. You can find all of that here. And then if you do need to submit a residency application, if you were originally a non-Ohio resident when you started at Columbus State and now you've lived in Ohio, then you may be able to qualify for residency. And then if you continue to scroll down, there's our chat hours and some frequently asked questions. And then at the very bottom, you will see those important summer semester dates. So summer registration opens February 15th, and then the priority FAFSA deadline is April 16th. And then with the fee payment deadline being May 26th. So you'll want to keep those dates very close and handy to make sure that you are set up to have a successful start to your summer semester. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And that is it for preparing for summer semester.
Cool. Oh, and if I could say one more thing, I did totally, this totally left my mind before I ended my session. If you are a student who uses the Pell Grant, just as a heads up, definitely put in a request for the summer semester to have additional Pell availability added onto your account. We will need that manual request input before we can add that funding onto your account. So just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that before we ended the session today. But that's all from me. Oh, and that would be through the award revision form. My goodness, I'm sorry. Very spacey today, but that would be it.